All right, so let's talk about, or I should say, you talk about passing. I did not see it. I was planning to because I was hearing a lot of great things about it.
Sure.
This is the debut feature from Rebecca Hall,
Right.
and it actually stars, two of my favorite, actors right now. That would be Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga, who I
Mhm.
haven't seen actually in a hot minute, right? So just glad that she was part of this, right? Uh, but the premise of it, even though like just kind of marginally familiar with it, really intrigued me though.
Right.
So that was part of it, but I didn't want to know too much about what it was about. So I just kind of got a little glimpse as to what it was about, but I didn't really watch any trailers for this. But I do know that it is a black and white film, and I think that a lot of attention is going to be drawn onto it because it's black and white, and well, once you jump into the premise, the subject matter, right? So yeah, take it away, Patrick.
Yeah. So this was basically, yeah, it's based on a book, I think, if I remember correctly. I haven't read that book. Um, it kind of gets into a big common issue it not as big as a deal back in the days, but it was a big issue back in the early 20th century in particular, with with black women and race in particular. The idea of passing, right? The idea that you could pass for white if you have half this or mix with that or quadroon or octoroon or whatever outdated racial categories it had. Um, right. So Thompson plays Irene, right? Rainey, where she lives in Harlem, and she basically she bonks back up with she old friend Claire, and Claire's like, well, Claire does pass even more than her now. She's very light, and the big thing is that the person has light skin in the world, and it bonks off with who could pass and what, and they get into a lot of that discourse. And then because Claire comes back into her life, Claire kind of want to become in, you could say, her blackness again. Like she missing that from her life because she's living in quote unquote white spaces for long. And yeah, that's pretty much the general premise. So I just call this movie The Ballad of the Red Woman, right? That's the joke. Um,
Ha 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 ha.
yeah, I thought this was pretty good. Mostly, Tessa Thompson is the lead as Irene. She holds it together. Um, this fellow Andre Holland, I think in this, he was the husband.
Oh
He was
yes,
pretty,
okay, okay.
yeah, he was pretty good in this. I thought. Uh, this was incredibly sad. Like the where it
Oh
goes, it's
wow.
really dark, and really unfortunate. But it is a really interesting premise and conceit about race. Like it's a it's a very popular meditation on race and how race should play itself out in the United States, and especially with women and race and that whole dynamic. And yeah, it mostly works. Like where it goes, the relationship Claire and Irene, where they bouncing off each other, have why Claire is, well, no spoilers necessarily, but Claire's like a person like her is both victim and oppressor all in one, right? But for different reasons and why. And they play with that really well, like how it plays out and how she goes into the whole what it is you see when you talk about race. What is it, why it is you could get away with race? Why it is you could get away with quote unquote passing and how the conceptuality of passing, what that means, and it's something that again our generation kind of don't really know anymore. But maybe my dad and then earlier people would have definitely have that issue, going backwards and thinking about race, thinking about color, how color affecting your life, how you could pass at this, especially in the case of Claire, because well early in the show it establishes pretty early on, but Claire is like married to a very blatant racist now. um but yeah, so that is the brilliant aspect of it. It really works. Tessa and Ruth Negga really bounce off each other quite well. They do a really good job with all of that narrative and story, and it's just the idea of hiding your identity and how to play with that. And I there's a whole joke I make about anybody who hide an identity. You have a lot of people who could, they just have to have one identity. And the joke I make, I call it the Superman lie. You have
Right,
one
right.
lie, but it's a big lie, right? Uh, you do the Superman lie. That's what it is. See, you have this one thing about yourself, nobody learn. And then until too late, then people learn about it, and then that's the end of everything. And Ruth Negga's character Claire is all about that. They play with that really, really well. In today's world, everybody could be all honest and whatnot, right? You don't have to really be dishonest about anything in particular. Um, but yeah, that is about it. I thought this was really, really clever and really well done. Never read the book, so the story is relatively new to me with this thing, but I was familiar with the premise and ideas. Trinidad should like make something like this, so that'll be like actually kind of clever. I mean, the last time we had something like that was what, No Boundaries. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
which
yeah,
we both grew up on, eh? That's why
yeah,
I say
exactly.
wow.
Yeah, so that's about it. Um, for the most part, I dig it for what it is, and what they're doing. It's very well done. It really emotional. Again, incredibly tragic where it goes at the end. Um, but I thought it was very, very well done in terms of like just good filming. It pieces itself really well. The editing is good. It had it that it has some clumsy moments in the ending coming on with the big event that happens at the end. But that's not that big of a deal for me. Like it's still solid filmmaking for what it goes for and where it ends. Yeah, rated. I'll actually this probably might get one of the best of the year for me because of how well done it is. Probably like an 8 out of 10. I do recommend it. So that's about it. No spoilers anywhere else.
All right, you didn't mention anything about the whole black and whiteness of it, the
That's
look of it.
that's all part of the filmmaking. It's not special per se. They just do some good lighting and thing, but I didn't think it was that impressive per se. It was just solid, like just typical black and white stuff. Like I didn't see like the idea was to show the color and when the black white color thing, but it didn't really. I didn't think it was particularly expertly done or anything like that. This is probably just due to the director first timeness, amateurness. That's the only thing I'll say. But it's a first outing, solid outing for Rebecca Hall. It's fine. It's pretty good actually. But I didn't notice it like as a big art piece or anything like that. It have a couple okay shots, but the black and whiteness is about as good as when Louis C.K. used it in his film. Like it was just a
Right.
pastiche that wasn't not that special. But in the context of this, it makes a lot more sense, I suppose. So yeah, it wasn't special.
Okay, okay, okay. All right, so to close things off now, speaking of actors who appeared in superhero property, now let's jump into Red Notice.
Right,
So this is or at least how it's being hyped, right? Is the first time team up now between Dwayne Johnson, formerly known as The Rock, even though he still calls himself that on Instagram. I follow him on Instagram. I will say that wholeheartedly. Ryan Reynolds. I mean, both of them
right.
have started together in Hobbs and Shaw, if you remember, and Gal Gadot, right? So it's the three of them together in a movie for the first time ever, right? And what was interesting with this though is, well, it was released through Netflix, right? So it actually came out yesterday. It was recorded, right? Um, and also it was supposed to be out, through Universal Pictures, right? Kind of makes sense, be since Universal has been putting out, the Fast and Furious movies and all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, it was really like noticeable that, oh, Netflix is gonna put this out. And I remember, like, months ago when Netflix was promising, oh, we're gonna drop a movie every single week. This was
Right.
the one that they were hyping up the most. Like, oh my god, you're getting to see A-list Hollywood actors on, I mean, in on your screen. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have
Right.
to spend any money to see that, right? So that was the big sell, right?
So okay, so I immediately dismissed this movie as some kind of bullshit in the same way that you remember Chris Pine and so I forget what it is had a love triangle movie or when Isla Fisher and well somebody in this movie as well had a movie together and it was just these kind of it's clearly a contract movie. That's what this feel like. This just
What
feel like
what
a
was it by
Isla Fisher and Gal Gadot had a movie with thing, and then it had a movie with Chris Pine and somebody else had a love triangle kind of movie where they were spies and some kind of crap. So this means war. Remember that?
Oh, I actually saw that once and
Right.
I hated it.
Yeah. It's right. It's two spies going for this one girl. It was who it is where is Chris Pine, Tom Hardy, and Reese Witherspoon. Right. Stuff like that. Or like I remember it had another one with Isla Fisher and Gal Gadot, where like the only thing
Oh,
in it
oh,
was
that right. That one. Okay, so I'll help you with that one because I was back when she I was checking out her wiki page there. That is Keeping Up with the Joneses.
Yes, that's what it
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Which I remember seeing a trailer for it and I was like, yes, I
Right.
know Gal Gadot
Right.
is
So
in it,
right. So
but
the joke was
no, no,
right.
no,
And
no,
the
thank you.
joke, the whole joke in that is these two dumpy people, basically trying to keep up with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But they had a whole thing and they get caught up in this. It's like they making it's like a funny version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but like with two extra dumpy people in it. That's the joke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh that is what this movie feeling like. It's just feeling like another one of that. Like, oh, put three attractive people in one space and tell jokes. Kind of, not really. It look again a contract film. This just feels like a contract film. All of these people are under contract and they need to do the film. Now The Rock has been doing this a hot minute because he signed literally every movie contract on the planet, right?
You know?
But I expect Ryan Reynolds to be better. But then again, Ryan Reynolds do these contract films that some of them work. Like when he did the whole protecting the but hi with his
Oh,
Hitman's
the
bodyguard thing.
Hitman's Wife bodyguard.
Right, the Hitman's
No, the
bodyguard. They did
Hitman's
Hitman.
Bodyguard, right? And then there
Right,
was the
it's not a sequel.
sequel which came out this year, which
Right.
I wanted to check out, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
Well, what
skipped back
happened
up.
is that I was avoiding trailers because I didn't want to spoil the show. And then the show, like because of the pandemic and stuff like that, it
Yeah.
was coming out in theaters. By the time theaters were closed, by the time it came out
Right.
on
Yeah.
video, I was just like, well, I don't want to see that again. I good. So yeah, I kind of forgot about it now.
No, but I saw see it. This is when I see this kind of stuff, I is immediately like this. This I am completely allergic to this kind of marketing. I know it's some bullshit. It's gonna be terrible. It's looking terrible. Whatever.
Well, to answer your question, why it is terrible.
Yeah.
It's
Not
actually quite
surprising.
horrible, but
No surprise. No
yeah,
goddamn
but
surprise.
but I forgot. Well, we forgot to mention, when you rock this. So this is directed by Rawson Marshall Tuber, right?
Okay.
He actually directed. I still see one of the best comedies of the 2000s. That would be Dodgeball, a true
Right.
underdog
Okay.
story. But he also did Central Intelligence and
Okay.
Skyscraper.
Right.
I remember
So
avoided Central Intelligence because I just thought the premise just looked terrible.
Central
And I
Intelligence.
wasn't ready. I wasn't ready at the time to see The Rock, be an action hero and a comedian on screen at the same time.
Central Intelligence had one funny joke. One
All
funny
right.
joke in it. That was it. But yeah,
Okay.
Central Intelligence was some bullshit. And then I didn't see Skyscraper.
All right. Well,
Um,
I
whatever.
saw it and I actually reviewed it on this podcast here, and I remember just like not caring for it at all. It just
Right.
felt like just this cheap '90s action movie knockoff that took itself way too seriously. They tried to make Rock be all vulnerable and
Right.
my family and but oh gosh, it's the Rock. Like you really think he going to like not survive? Of course he's gonna survive. He's the Rock. I mean, come on, right? The movie it's he's selling the movie, right? That's what it was, right? So yeah, so this is the two collaboration between the two of them, right? So in a nutshell, this movie centers on these three eggs, right? These bejeweled eggs, right? And they give you this backstory about, well, apparently this was Cleopatra's eggs, and they were when she died, they were presumed missing, and they showed up in different areas around the world, and one's in this in this museum somewhere, and the other two are some other place, and they do that. So it's a whole well, not so much a heist thing, but the whole, okay, I'm this jewel thief and I'm gonna try to steal, like, the stuff that deemed difficult to steal. I want to be the one to do it. So it's that art thief kind of stuff, right? So as you'd expect, Dwayne is the hero, quote unquote, right? So he's John Hartley. He's this criminal profiler for the FBI, sorry, right? And he's hunting down Nolan Boot, played by Ryan Reynolds. So yes, of course, he being the most swami, sorry, out of the three. Of course, he's the art thief, right?
Right.
And in this really painfully obvious moment sequence of stunt work, you could tell, yes, there is stunt work involved, and no Ryan Reynolds, even though he has started action films before, can do parkour or flip or jump and do the kind of things that his character, so-called character, does during the opening chase scene. Because of course we have to have a moment where where what's his face where John chases after Nolan, right? So all that happens now, and this, well, because of course he steals one of them, right? But then you kind of realize, no, actually, the character of the bishop, who is played by Gal Gadot, she actually stole it, right?
Right.
And in the process now, John is framed now for stealing, for assisting the bishop in stealing that egg, right? And also say that, no, you're actually not a FBI profile at all. You're actually some wanted criminal, right? So we have this character of Urvashi Das, right? Played by Ritu Arya. Not too familiar with her. Apparently, she was in this show called Humans, which I still haven't seen, but I'm familiar with the show, but I just never saw her, right? Yeah, so she played the typical Interpol inspector who's chasing down the bad guys, or the anti-heroes all over the world. You know what I mean? And trying to be one step ahead. You know what I mean? I talked about this before with Army of Thieves, so it's the same shit all over again. So yeah,
Right.
she's that character, right? So as the trailer spoiled already, John and Nolan end up getting arrested. They end up in some prison in Russia, right? And of course, as you'd expect, they form this partnership and they break out, because the idea is that, well, they have to help the bishop find the second pretty much steal the second egg, right? Because this bad guy by the name of Soto Voss, if that's the name, if I spell it wrong, forgive me. If I pronounce it wrong, sorry, forgive me. Yeah, he has it, and he is this douchey bad guy, and of course he lives in a mansion. And while all this is going on, of course it's a costume ball, and they all go in and they all looking all nice and shit. Especially Gal Gadot, who comes in rocking this really like sexy red dress. You see the trailers, you see all the
Right.
promotion and stuff like that. So yeah, you kind of know where this is going, right? But they try to do this little twist here where she keeps insisting that Nolan knows what the third one is, right? And he keeps saying, "No, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is," right? So, long story short, they have to acquire the second one. They have to steal it from the bad guy, and then try to find where the third one is. And then we get this sort of Raiders of the Lost Ark moment in this, rainforest trying to find the third
So
one
wait,
and all
they
stuff.
try to do a kind of national treasure kind of something with this then. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. Well,
That's
yeah.
what they do it. That's what they do it.
Oh boy, that
That's
was.
where we at.
And look, national treasure is something that I actually get a soft spot with over time, but yeah,
Me
that
too.
but it's
The
almost
second one didn't really care for it, but first
right,
one,
right.
it was good. It was good. It was good. It was
At
good,
some
right?
point, right, right,
Yeah, and it's playing off the whole masonry stuff, and the whole conspiracy theory stuff. So that's part of what make it work for me, right? But yeah, so just to jump into this review here one time, as I said before, yeah, this was terrible, boy. I noticed a few critics comparing it to, like, old 90s action films, right? Or like some 90s action film that you didn't even know existed, and you just watch it and it's like, oh, that wasn't half bad. And that's how people kind of spin it as. How to take that analogy, I more see it as a 90s action film that ended up in a $5 bin at Best Buy, right? Or wherever it is. If you're American, you probably know what I talk about, right? Just some film that people just kind of forgot about the moment it came out, and it just it just selling for $2, right? The VHS or the DVD sell for like $2, right? That's what it is. That's what the show felt like to me, right? So here's the thing, right? People will go into the show for one obvious reason: the cast. Because I mean, it's
right.
three of the biggest names
Big stars, yeah,
big stars, three
yeah.
of the biggest names in Hollywood right now. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, it's Dwayne Johnson, it's Ryan Reynolds, it's Gal Gadot. I mean, yeah, why wouldn't you want to see a show with the three of them, right? That's the sell, right? Here's the problem: they pretty much are playing the same characters or the same archetypes that they've played numerous times before. Dwayne is the tough hand cop who doesn't, he doesn't want to be partners with Nolan, because Nolan is a dick and he's an asshole and he always has quips and one-liners, and he doesn't trust anybody as well too, and he always has a remark for everything that happens to him. And of course, Gal Gadot is the sexy femme fatale, and
Right.
she delivers lines, and not saying that she can't deliver lines, but I find like the lines that she given are so wooden and so forced and cookie cutter way is like why Jen? It just making her look bad, right? I mean she done doing a great job of not looking bad, so why would you have these god awful dialogue for her to read, right? Just saying. The villain wasted. Didn't care for him at all. He was just this
Wow.
bargain basement bad guy, European tough guy. You know what I mean? And he talks creepy, and he has this thing about choking people, and oh I'm so rich, and oh yeah this is the pistol that my dad left me, and this is the same pistol I used to kill my daddy because my daddy didn't like me, and all this bullshit that nobody cares about. And of course he has the egg, and he has all these artifacts and all that kind of stuff. So you kind
Right.
of know where this is going, right? And you've just seen this premise done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times before, and you just watch this like in 2021, Trent. Why is this film so cliche, Trent? Why is it so predictable? And speaking of predictable, again, it's the thief. We following the thieves, right? We the anti-heroes in this, right? They try to do all these twists and all these deflections and all these kind of things, right? Like, oh, you think that he did this, but he actually did that, and now he has a device that he could actually like, assume the identity of the bad guy, because of course, voice and facial recognition and all that kind of stuff is like, oh gosh, if you've seen one Mission Impossible movie in your lifetime, you know where the shit gonna go, Dre. It just
Right.
plays these beats and you've seen these things before, and it just comes off just really dull and boring, you know what I mean? Now, to be fair, this is a very sleek looking film. Like this looks really, really, really good though. Even though admittedly there's numerous moments where you could tell it's done in some sound stage. I mean they use a lot of green
Yeah,
screen.
but
Um
it's just I mean it's Sony in particular like guilty of this, but just
yeah,
everything
yeah,
just
yeah.
feel like a set.
Yeah.
They just feel like a set. You'll have some clean ass street in New York City. Don't feel like New York at all. Oh God.
Yeah. So I'll
Hmm.
try an example. This is just a minor spoiler, right? So John and Nolan, it's actually in the trailer, right? They for circumstances, right? They were actually underground in this area, right? But they
Hmm.
free themselves. That's all I'll say. And they climbing up this ladder, right? And they end up in the middle of this bull ring, right? So
Right.
yeah, this bullfighting ring, whatever you want to call it, right? This coliseum kind of thing, right? And there's a moment like you're just watching the scenery, you're watching the surroundings around them, and even with the lighting and on Dwayne and Ryan, you could still tell this is green screen. It's just so noticeable, Dread. Even the bull is fake. Well, of course the bull is fake, Dread, but they had to let you know how fake this bull is, right? Because get the joke, right? Because Dwayne Johnson used to call
Right.
himself the Brahma Bull. Ha ha ha
Right.
ha ha
Yeah. The
again,
Rock.
right?
Yeah. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bull butts Dwayne Johnson and the man literally gets back up like it's nothing. After that, I was just like, nah, boy, like this show could get any worse. Right? Like, you couldn't try to give her this fake escapism just so without scraping the barrel. Right? Like, that was the moment that did it for me. Yeah? But it was doing the throat. But that one moment was just like, nah, all it just okay anymore. Like, all it just want me to laugh at it because it's the Rock in it. It's because he's in it. That's why I'm supposed to like this, right? And
Hmm.
that's the problem with this movie. It really relies on these three
Yeah.
actors to sell this movie for you.
Yeah. I think what frustrating. I think what frustrating about stuff like this. Like at this point, we just have to like treat the whole thing like more like a anthropological exercise than an actual movie, right? Like
Yeah,
why these things are
yeah,
still
yeah.
made, why they're so cringe and kitsch at this point,
Yes.
and what is kind of strange is how they do give why does this do give talent? Like they'll have a half-ass script, but I sure have a lot of talented young writers out there that they could just say, okay, here's your chance to punch up this shit script and try to make
Yeah.
this as
Which,
funny
by
as
the way,
possible.
is written by the same director.
Right, but here's
Written
your
by the
chance.
director, sorry.
Right, but here's your chance. That give it is piss me off the same reason why Adam Sandler films is piss me off. Like, dude,
Yeah, yeah.
sit down and work it out now. Like, sit down and like actually like give somebody a chance. Or another good example is Tyler Perry. It have a lot of great young black filmmakers. Stop making the shit. Just give them a chance. Give them the budget or something. Hire them. Don't make your shitty scripts. And it's a kind of weird like ego trip thing now. At this point, it's
Mm.
like we really doing this still though? Whatever.
Yeah,
Move
yeah,
it.
you're right. You're right. I'll almost done. I get to read it a bit, right? But yeah, dude, this just feels so by the numbers, right? So dated, right? You're right. Like in 2021, right, you're telling me somebody
2021.
could just look at this and be like, wow, this thing, like legit. I was watching this, and this felt more like something out of the 2000s, not so much
Yeah,
from
no,
the
but here's the
90s.
thing: is
Even in the
something that
90s, it gave you some kind of big action pack
uh,
set piece. What we get
yeah,
here is
and
like what some generic escape from a
right,
Russian prison. That's the
and
big set piece
admittedly,
again, huh?
yeah, and admittedly, it's the Friedberg and Seltzer thing, right? Where look, you just put big names on it. I don't know what the budget of this is, but it had a cost next to nothing. I'd imagine that given it might be a contract thing, so they probably don't have to pay the actors all that much, in the film now. So they don't pay ahead of time, and they just throw this piece of shit script on Netflix or whatever it is quick, and that's it, right? Or whatever they need. What do you watch this on? What's it on?
No, it was on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Netflix,
That's
right,
why I
right,
watched
right.
it. Yeah.
And so it's something that you could have barely get with in the back in the times of when we rely on theaters, but now with the Netflix thing, it's like, oh well, I could just it's kind of like with Bird Box now. You just pull out some
Yeah.
bullshit, it makes a certain money anyway, and like once you get the eyeballs, you're good, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just I have zero patience with this nonsense. It's just so cynical and like, look, they make back the money. Well, I'm sure this make back its money because you just click, you see The Rock, you see Gal Gadot, you see Ryan Reynolds, three big names, that's it, and you watch it, no matter how much garbage it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You're right. You're right. And speaking of the 2000s again, this would have worked if I'll throw Dwayne Johnson into this, right? Because it that surprising, right? So in the rainforest sequence, right, there is a car chase, right, and the way how it ends eerily reminded me of when he was in the rundown house. Like what I saw, the rundown is from 2003. Process that for a minute. Shit in this movie here, 2021, reminded me of a movie from 2003 that had a much better premise. Right? Like, if you remember, this was where The Rock really became an action hero, though, because he got his introduction basically with the Bobby Returns and us. Well, and speaking of the 2000s, they even do a sort of a blink and you're missing reference to the friggin' Bobby. Because it's
okay,
a set piece
wow,
that takes place in Egypt. Right? Like, what was
right,
he? Like, they
right.
have, like how you have those characters who painted in those muscular servant guys who painted in gold. They do that shit. And I was like, wow,
Okay,
this is
yeah,
straight out of the Bobby dog. But
right, right,
anyway,
right.
so you see, like how with the Rundown, which was in 2003, right? This is when The Rock was like now coming into
Yeah,
himself as an actor, like now
yeah. He
becoming
did
the
he did
real actor,
Scorpion King, right? Scorpion King he did,
right?
and then he did the rundown.
Scorpion King was like
His
when
first thing,
it was
yeah,
like yeah, the first big action role, right? And then
right,
afterwards was like, all right, cool. Now let me jump into the Rundown. Let me,
right.
and Rundown is still a fantastic movie. So what
Well,
about all?
solid, yeah,
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 it's solid film. That's one of the
yeah.
greatest movies ever made. But one of my favorite films from Dwayne Johnson, right? But yeah, when I'm watching that film from 2021, it's reminded me of a show from 2003, Dread. Problems. But the
Yeah,
point
yeah.
is that what to me, what would have made this work is if you brought in fairly new actors, like people who, in it for a while now, but they're not like big, they're not like A-list as yet. Like, well, probably they now reach. So, they're still fairly fresh in the game now. You know what I mean? That would have worked, Dread. But when you have Dwayne and Ryan and Gal, who has been in this for years now. And I mean, right now, they're the top of the craft right now, Trent. It's just like, this, they deserve better than this, Trent. This is painfully average for them, Trent. And the person who I really felt it the most for, boy, was Gal. I really felt it for her, boy. Like, all right, to be fair, everybody you could tell was having fun. You could tell they were having fun when they were on
Yeah, I
screen,
mean,
the back.
yeah,
Well,
for
like, it's
no,
fine. You
for
know,
these actors,
yeah,
this is basically a kind of vacation because
yeah,
again, it's probably
exactly.
a easy. Again, it's I don't know. Again, I just speculating behind the scenes of what it is, but either it's an easy script or contract. Like you had to ask yourself the question: why they decide to sign on to some project like this, right? Like why? You know, why are you doing this nonsense? Like, is it
Yeah,
not being easy or you just
it does
having
feel
fun?
like a fever at times. Eh? Like I
Right,
feel like
right,
while
right.
Dwayne and Rawson they work together, and
Something.
we are okay, so we want to make this film, and apparently it was in the back burner for like a few years apparently.
Right.
So they were like looking for studios to take it, right? But it's like, all right, well, I want to get my friends involved. Hey, Ryan, we
Right.
had a little nice little chemistry in Hobbs and Shaw. All right, cool. Let me do that. But we need a fine woman to be involved in this. How about Gal Gadot? I mean, she
Right.
riding high for Wonder Woman, so I mean, let
Kind
me
of.
bring she
Yeah.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me
Yeah.
bring she in. Match made in heaven, right? Apparently, that's the sell. Yeah, but you're right. It does feel contractual. It does feel like it's a favor. Like, hey, be in a movie there. It's to the point that even because I believe this is the first time I've ever seen this trend. Like even the Rock's production company, right? This is $7 Productions. If you know his backstory, you'll understand the whole $7 thing, right? But it's like that shows up right after the Netflix logo. There. I'm like, wow, okay. Okay, Rock, like you really want to sell that this is like your big production in a sense. You know what I mean? So it's like that. It really does feel a little, admittedly, kind of egotistical in a sense. You know what I mean? But in the worst way. But yeah, but Gal Gadot, though, I really, really felt it for her because she just had these terrible lines. So they really try to sell her as this like really this femme fatale. She's always one step ahead of Jordan Nolan, and
Yeah.
she just kind of talks somewhat like she's somewhat like some kind of like supervillain, like out of some kind of cartoon, like I knew you were going to do this, but you know what I mean? Like, and she always comes off kind of cynical, but in a playful kind of way, and that just kind of got to my nerves. Like, you know what I mean? She's almost like, okay, so every time you talk, every time you open your mouth, you always have to be cynical or swabby about everything. Like, yes, you stupid idiots, and you thought you had the egg, but I had this, and you know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that. And it's just that she just talks so much, but she just really does little. And it's just you sell that, oh, it's her and her looks like, you know what I mean? Like that scene, it should zero in that, right? But when all you have is just that and some painfully average fight scene involving her, just like, well, you could have gotten anybody else to play her trend. But again, Gal Gadot is on top, right? So let's get her, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, this was just pointless in my opinion, though. Oh, I forgot to mention, lastly before I get to read it, as I said with twists and deflections, all that kind of stuff, right? They have easily one of, if not the worst twists I have ever seen in a movie this year. I want to say one of the worst. I mean, like when it happens, it is a slap to the viewer's face, Trent. It treats the viewers as if they are stupid, as if we're supposed to buy into everything that we've seen before, and then they just do this cheap little, typical thing in these kind of thief stash heist films. Oh, remember that moment where the character says this? Well, this is what was really going on underneath and behind the scenes, and they do that. I was like,
This song
God
this song like
damn
some
it!
catch.
Why?
This song like some catch
Why?
catch me if you can bullshit.
It is that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
That
just
bullshit. Yeah.
done in the worst way, Trent. And it doesn't justify the show at all. It doesn't justify itself. It's just done so it could be like, oh, well, we needed to be one step ahead of you because you're an idiot. Haha. And it's just painful, painful to watch. But
Yeah.
I was smacking myself over the head while I was watching
Yeah.
this.
I
They
listen.
had all the twists.
I have only so many hours in the day, and I really don't understand why anybody would like take the time to go and watch this nonsense.
Well, I
Anyway,
told you
what's your
why.
rating? What's your
Because
rating?
because of the actors,
Yeah.
and
Well,
that's
yeah.
that's the that's the problem. That is
Anyway,
why a lot of people are gonna go into this, and they're gonna come out of this. Before I get to rating, they're gonna come. Like, all right, so let me just say the rating one time.
yeah.
I
What's your
give this a
rating?
two
Yeah.
out of five. I want
Okay.
my
Yeah.
money back. Yes, I saw it on Netflix. I still want my money, right? But here's the unfortunate thing about this show, Trent. People will still watch it. One, because it's on Netflix. You can't go wrong. It's on Netflix. Why should I go cinema to see this when I can watch it in the comfort of my home, right? And you have three big names on screen, so it's a steal of a deal, right? But you've seen these actors play these roles before. You've seen them probably do it in worse films or better films or average films. I'm looking at you, Dwayne Johnson. You know what I mean? So you've seen
Yeah.
this before.
Whatever.
So it's like it's just nothing. But you just give him this globe trotted, art thief slash Lupin the Third kinda,
Yeah, yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark kinda rip-off kind of thing that feels straight out of the 2000s, that just so painfully dated and average, man. Like I like see what you want about Dwayne's choices of films, and Ryan's and Gal's as well, but I mean, they deserve better than this, Trent. They deserve much better than this. Not saying that the show should have been a masterpiece and you can't shut your brain off and enjoy it. But why not just give a decent film that doesn't feel dated, that actually has effort put into the story, into the characters, and yeah, I can watch it and have fun. And people will watch this and say, yeah, I had fun, I enjoyed it. But admit to yourself, you had fun because you saw your favorite actors on screen, right? Just admit it. That's why you enjoyed that. But I imagine if anybody else was in this film, they probably would have hated it if the script stayed the same. But if, like I say, if somebody else was there to punch it up and you brought in like fairly new actors, that's what would make it work. But here, having these well-established actors being this is just like, yeah, just kind of doing this for the money, for the paycheck. It just shows on screen. I'm sorry, but other than that, yeah, skip the shit out.
Okay, cool.